Wolf Brother, Chapter 3, Part 1. Chapters 1 and 2 were told from Torak's viewpoint, but Chapter 3 introduces us to a new character, and the chapter starts with the viewpoint of somebody new. The wolf cub did not at all understand what was going on. He'd been exploring the rise above the den when the fast wet had come roaring through, and now his mother and father and pack brothers were lying in the mud, and they were ignoring him. Since long before the light, he'd been nosing them and biting their tails, but they still didn't move. They didn't make a sound, and they smelt strange, like prey. Not the prey that runs away, but the not breath kind, the kind that gets eaten. The cub was cold, wet, and very hungry. Many times he had licked his mother's muzzle to ask her please to stick up some food for him to eat. But she didn't stir. What had he done wrong this time? He knew that he was the naughtiest cub in the litter. He was always being scolded, but he couldn't help it. He just loved trying new things. So it seemed a bit unfair now, when he was staying by the den like a good cub, nobody even noticed. He padded to the edge of the puddle where his pack brothers lay and lapped up some of the still wet. It tasted bad. He ate some grass and a couple of spiders. He wondered what to do next. He began to feel scared. He put back his head and howled. Howling cheered him up a bit because it reminded him of all the good howls he'd had with the pack. Mid-howl, he stopped. He smelt wolf. He spun round, wobbling a little from hunger. He swiveled his ears and sniffed. Yes, wolf. He could hear it coming noisily down the slope on the other side of the fast wet. He smelt that it was male, half-grown, and not one of the pack. But there was something odd about it. It smelt of wolf, but also of not wolf. It smelt of reindeer, and red deer, and beaver, and fresh blood, and something else. A new smell that he hadn't yet learnt. This was very odd, unless it was meant that the not wolf was actually a wolf who'd eaten lots of different prey and was now bringing the cub some food. Shivering with eagerness, the cub wagged his tail and yipped at a noisy welcome. For a moment, the strange wolf stopped. Then it moved forwards again. The cub couldn't see it very clearly because his eyes weren't nearly as sharp as his nose and ears. But as it splashed across the fast wet, he made out that this was a very strange wolf indeed. It walked on its hind legs. The fur on its head was black and so long that it reached right down to its shoulders. And strangest of all, it had no tail. Yet it sounded wolf. It was making a low, friendly yip and yowl, which sounded a bit like, "It's all right, I'm a friend." This was reassuring, even if it did keep missing out the highest yips. But something was wrong. Beneath the friendliness there was a tense note, and although the strange wolf was smiling, the cub could tell it didn't really mean it. The cub's welcome changed to a whimper. "Are you hunting me? Why?" "No, no," came the friendly but not friendly yip and yowl. Then, The strange wolf stopped yip and yowling and advanced in frightening silence. Too weak to run, the cub backed away. The strange wolf lunged, grabbed the cub by the scruff and lifted him high. Weakly, the cub wagged his tail to fend off an attack. The strange wolf lifted its other forepaw and pressed a huge claw against the cub's belly. The cub yelped. Grinning in terror, he whipped his tail between his legs. But the strange wolf was frightened too. Its forepaws were shaking, and it was gulping and baring its teeth. The cub sensed loneliness and uncertainty and pain. Suddenly, the strange wolf took another gulp and jerked its great claw away from the cub's belly. Then it sat down heavily in the mud and clutched the cub to its chest. The cub's terror vanished. Through the strange furless hide that smelt more of not wolf than wolf, he could hear a comforting thump-thump, like the sound he heard when he clambered on top of his father for a nap. The cub wriggled out of the strange wolf's grip, put his forepaws on its chest, and stood on his hind legs. He began to lick the strange wolf's muzzle. Angrily, the strange wolf pushed him away, and he fell backwards. Undeterred, he righted himself and sat gazing up at the strange wolf. Such an odd, flat, furless face. The lips weren't black like a proper wolf's, but pale, and the ears were pale too, and they didn't move at all. But the eyes were silver grey and full of light, the eyes of a wolf. The cub felt better than he had since the fast wet had come. He'd found a new pack brother. I hope you enjoyed that part of the chapter from the point of view of Wolf. Next, it's part 2 of chapter 3.